Welcome. I'm Danny Brown. You're listening to my podcast, The Deal. Thanks for tuning in. Today we have a very special guest. I am fired up to speak with her. She's an incredibly talented tastemaker and influencer in the design world. She's an incredible interior designer that's done projects from LA to Aspen to Mexico and all over the place. Very cutting edge, very tasteful, someone who's just smart and on her game. Without further ado, Alison Palevsky.
That's right. One life. Yeah. You know what it is. This one goes out to my people.
Alison Palevsky, how are you?
I'm doing really well. Happy to be here with you.
Thank you. Thank you. We're in your beautiful home rather than my office. So this is pretty spectacular. We can get more into this home and how you found it. But I wanted to say a little bit about you. You're a designer, you're a tastemaker, you're an influencer. And when I mean influencer tastemaker, I don't mean you're just on Instagram pretending to be somebody. You actually have a legit thing to say and an unbelievable style. And your design style is impeccable, and it's it's pretty influential. So I'd love for you to kind of tell us how you got into design, how it all started, and what led you to doing what you're doing now, and then we can get more into your background and where you grew up and such.
Sure. So I basically went to work for ICM, which is International Creative Management.
Yeah.
It was my first job out of college.
Mailroom,
Agent trainee, mailroom.
Agent trainee.
I was 21 years old.
Ooh, fun job.
It was
like
interesting.
delivering scripts, making copies.
$7 an hour back then.
Oh, you were getting paid.
Yeah,
I think I was $5 an hour when I was at APA.
Oh, you were APA? Yeah, you see? But I never had a job before. So I basically interned in college for two producers. While I was interning for them, they broke their partnership, and it was pretty ugly. They both offered me a job, an entry-level position. I said, I don't really think I want to be in producing. And they're like, what do you want to do?
They were doing film or TV?
They produce films.
Got it.
And I said, I don't know what I want to do. And they're like, well, if you don't know what you want to do, go work for an agency.
Perfect.
It's basically like the Wharton School of Business for the entertainment. For entertainment. So
and for those of you that don't know, the mail rooms at ICM, William Morris, now William Morris Endeavor CA, that is a training ground for anyone that's in entertainment. Some of the biggest names in Hollywood came through there. It's hardcore. It's ultra competitive. Kids come out of the Ivy League schools banging the doors to get in, and very few do get into the agency training program. And then if you do get in, you get abuse for a couple of years. And if you survive the abuse, just maybe, you'll get put on a desk as an assistant to survive
a glorified secretary.
Right. Get more abuse and more stuff thrown at you. And if for somehow you can wiggle your way and survive that, you may become a junior agent someday then make, I don't know, what does a junior agent make? 30 grand, 40 grand? Maybe you can pay your rent.
Today's world is probably more like 60.
So
but
today's dollar 60. But back then it was probably
it was
30 grand and you were thrilled. You got a beeper or a cell phone.
Yes.
Anyway, that's the agent trainee world.
Yes. So I did that, and I did that for a couple years, and I have to say, it taught me a lot about business and survival of the fittest, and really excellent business skills for what became the foundation of my eventual business when I went on my own in design. But I basically said, God, if I'm going to go do anything, I'm going to go do something I really want to do. So I got a job working for someone, a big designer, two big designers, and I went to school at night at UCLA to really learn how to draw.
You went back to school?
I went back to school. I went to UCLA for
interior
design program. But I really learned, and you need to learn how to draw. I mean, you have to. And
were you a natural drawer prior, or were you always a good artist?
A lot of it is mathematical. So, mathematics has actually always been a strong point. So I was doing that, but I was learning in the field because I was working for these two designers.
While you're going to school,
you're in it, seeing what goes on. Exposed to it all. So that's kind of how I landed in the design world. It was something I was really passionate about, and I thought, if you're going to do it, you've got to actually go and see what it's like to do it day to day, because it's completely different from what you imagine in your mind.
So interesting enough, my mother went through the UCLA interior design program and is now retired, but she was the president of the IIDA, International Interior Design Association, for many years. So I grew up in a home with a designer and spent many summers and winter breaks schlepping carpets and furniture, and those were my jobs. Paint swatches, he's like 10 paint swatches on every wall. So I have grown up in it and have a total affinity and passion for interior design. And that's a whole nother story. We'll get into it later. But it's just interesting hearing that. So you went to school, you started working in the field, and that was how many years ago?
That was about 2001.
So that's where it started,
Yes.
2001.
So it's 18 years ago.
Okay. And where did you grow up?
I grew up in northern New Jersey in a
Got it. So
beautiful
East
little,
Coast.
yes, suburban town, 30 minutes out of Manhattan, and I really was ready to get out of the suburbs and go to the city.
Got it.
So I
And
ended
did
up at
you
USC.
Ended up at SC. So you
Yes.
grew up back east and came out west for college.
Yes.
And then got into
Never
entertainment
left.
and never left.
And now I've been here longer than there.
Wow. So
Yeah.
LA's home. Did you
Yes.
spend time in the city, like growing up in high school? Was that like people
In
went
high school, you
go
you
party in the
went-
city
you could-
kind of
yes,
thing and check out the
yes.
museums and all that stuff?
Yes, shows, museums, eventually
All of that.
nightclubs.
Yeah.
And I loved it. But
Did you miss that as you were in LA? Because it's
still
so
miss it.
different.
I still miss it.
You do miss it, yeah.
But
The
when
LA, the New York energy, there's nothing like that kind of vibe. The nightlife, the restaurants, the shop, the shows. It's very different being
very different here.
young and single in LA versus young and single in New York.
For me, when I was leaving SC, because it's really such a bonded school where the alumni like really support
Right.
each other, everyone I knew and all my opportunities were here. So there was no
Got it.
way I stayed here.
back
I had
wasn't-
stayed during
wasn't an
college
option.
for the summers, so there was no way that I was going back. But do I miss seasons? Do I miss that energy? Absolutely.
Yeah, how
And
could you not?
the first part of my career when I had a partner and we went on our own, we worked half the time in Manhattan. So
Got it.
for a couple years, we were really back and forth.
Yeah, because
half
I
the
wanted to
time.
ask about that. It seems that you have a very unique situation where you're based in LA. Most of your clients in network are probably LA, but you've also done a lot of projects in New York and Mexico and Aspen,
Yep.
other places. So are those people based on people you knew from back east? Are they people that live here that say, hey, I have a project I want to do in Mexico? How does that come about? And, maybe walk me through. I know you did a Mexico Punta Mita project recently.
Yes.
Can you walk us through
Yes,
that
absolutely.
and how that
So,
went down?
Our first New York project when I had my former partner became out of us saying, hey, you're working for this designer, I'm working for this designer, but we've got two clients that are basically ours. And if we leave with two clients, can we make this work? And we did.
Yeah.
And one happened to be in New York. And then, I had a partner for 10 years, then I went on my own. And I would say that the projects that have come out of in Aspen, in Miami, in New York, in Mexico are projects that were originally rooted in LA,
Got it.
and the client happens to have a second, third home.
Understood.
Or
So
it's a business. The Mexico project was for a new client, but a client that I had sort of known on the periphery just through, mutual friends. He said, hey, will you come down to Punta Mita and take
Yeah.
a look at this house? Needs to be updated, and I would love your thoughts. And then
Right.
we made a deal, and I spent between June and December, probably 2 weeks of every month in Punta Mita.
Oh, so that's it. I was thinking, how does that work? You have a full life here. You have a family. You have kids. You have clients. So how does it work? You're going
balance?
there.
Are you asking me about balance?
Not quite. I'm asking you if you're going to do a project in Punta Mita. You're moving in somewhere in Punta Mita for
No,
a couple
he owned
weeks.
a series of properties. He was a developer down there, so he had a bunch of properties. So we would stay
at a property and
stay in
work
a
on-
property, and then the one that was under construction was big. It was probably 14,000 square feet.
Got it. So it's
you
one of the
couldn't
estate
inhabit
homes.
it.
Was this in the estate
Yeah,
section?
Punta Mita Estates. Yeah.
Is it Rancho Estates? Is that what they call it? Or
it's not
Punta Mita
Rancho.
Estates?
It's Punta Mita Estates. Rancho is down by that beach area.
Yeah.
This is closer.
I was just there a couple weeks ago. I love Punta Mita.
Yeah, it's within those gates where
It
the
is
Four
within the
Seasons
main gates.
and
Okay.
and
Got
the
it.
St. Regis. It's
Near
on the
Sophie?
bluff. Sufi.
Sufi?
And that's one of his restaurants.
Oh,
They
okay,
built
yeah.
it, developed it. Absolutely, very
I know
close.
there's those incredible lots right there on that
yes,
beach.
yes, and he has one more that's there that's not built that we may end up doing. But yes,
So you're there for how long?
5 days at a time.
Okay, so you're not
And
moving there
then-
for 6
no,
months,
no,
but you're
no.
back and forth. You stay
Yes.
for a week, you come back.
Yeah.
And how does it work in terms of your vendors and your materials? Are you local, getting contractors there, or are you bringing crews from LA, or is it combination? Or
It depends what you're doing. So their craftsmanship is pretty impeccable, better than we have here a lot
Really?
of times. Stonework, woodwork, really amazing tradesmen. So
Wow,
that
I
kind of
wouldn't
work
think that.
we did there. And then we looked at the pure economics of what I could build here in the factories that we use and what was the cost of it.
Yeah.
And then, you're paying an import tax, 17%. So we used an exporter, but we built a majority of the case goods here or ordered them, sent them to an exporter in San Diego, and then they ship them over and get them there. And it made sense financially to do it that way.
Yeah.
So it was kind of a combination of things.
A lot of moving parts.
Lots of moving parts.
And then in terms of licensing and permits, and is it a completely different situation? Or is it, for the most part, as a design, it's the same thing? There's a rule of codes, there's a rule of permits.
No, there's not a code like the way that it is. No.
You just add on a bathroom when you want to add on a bathroom.
I mean,
you want to go to the second story, boom.
There's a contractor, and there are more I would say there's more home, similar to a homeowner
HOA, architectural committee.
Those are more of what you have to pass through, but I wouldn't say there's you're building a house in the Palisades and your inspector comes once a week and tells you to move the outlet over a foot because you're not in the right. No, that
rip
part
out
of
the
it
wall
is totally
because
different.
the outlet is 2 inches off.
Yes, exactly.
So it's not the Nazi
not
inspector.
by the book. No.
Very interesting. So let me rewind back. You mentioned you grew on the East Coast. What made you go to USC of all places to come out west? Did you want to be in LA?
Yeah. So I was tired of living in the suburbs. It was absolutely beautiful, great place to grow up. Probably pretty similar here to growing up in the valley of LA.
Sure. But colder.
A lot colder. And I actually was supposed to go to UCLA, and my mom got sick, and I kind of chickened out. So I actually ended up Villanova my freshman year.
Okay.
Was really unhappy again because I was in a parallel situation where I was
in Philadelphia.
Yeah, it's outside. It's on the main line. And ended up just the first couple months so unhappy. I've just transferred myself into the exact same situation that I didn't like. So how do I get out of here? So I reapplied USC, UCLA.
Was it just because it was the farthest thing from East Coast or Southern California?
I kind of chickened out because I didn't want to be away from my mom who was sick, and then she was okay, and so I threw out all my applications again, and then SC actually offered me some money to go there, and I was going to lose.
Pretty compelling.
Yeah, and I was going to lose credits because of the quarter system at UCLA. So I went to USC, which worked out really well for me. But that's how I ended up there.
So it's really just a huge change. Let's get out of the suburbs. Let's get to the West Coast.
I wanted to be in a big university with a lot of different cultural opportunities, and I crave, and I still crave, urban culture. I live in the Palisades. I go downtown 6 times a week because that is where it's happening right now. It's art, it's design.
Right.
It's a little bit of grit.
I like
the luxury, but I don't think I can do my job well without the grit.
Well, that's certainly the closest thing to a New York type of lifestyle where you have every walk of life on the same sidewalk, from a homeless person to a billionaire and everything in between, all mixed in. And LA's never had that until now.
Yeah, we're having a renaissance.
We're having a renaissance. It's pretty, as a real estate guy and watching it over the last 15 years, just spectacular. I was there early, looking at early lofts 20 years ago.
The Arts District?
Well, even the Arts District wasn't even blossoming yet.
Right.
This was even before Staples Center, before the first lofts that went across the street from the Staples Center. I was out there looking at stuff because this was in 2001, 2002 when I first started in real estate. And back then it was already, we thought, a renaissance. People are starting to develop and starting to remodel, restore old buildings. And then it's just
it's booming.
Momentum is booming. Velocity. Now you can't afford to buy there.
Yeah.
It's institutional money. It's the best restaurants in the world. And it's incredible. Art galleries everywhere. So, interesting enough, here we are sitting at your home, Palisades Riviera, one of my favorite pockets of LA. In fact, Jessica and I were in escrow in a house 2 blocks away on Amalfi 10 years ago, before she panicked the first night we got in escrow and canceled. Thought it was too far. Do
you regret that?
Do I regret it? No, I have no regrets. Just another life experience. But as we're sitting here on Amalfi and you're saying you're going downtown every day, I'm realizing, wow, I almost live 2 blocks away. It's one of the most incredible neighborhoods. You having impeccable design taste, aesthetic. What made you buy here in the Palisades? And then what made you buy this particular parcel? It's a pretty unique, sensational piece of property. It's the last house with views.
So my husband and I were living in Venice.
Very different.
Very different. We lived right on the circle next to Hama Sushi. I could
could
literally
be more
smell
different.
tempura every night in my shower.
The Windward Circle.
The Windward Circle. And we were ready to start looking. And I went to a party at well-known landscape designers' house up the street. It was a garden party.
Okay.
Pretty spectacular backyard.
So you
It
were
was
blown
the
away
other
by-
side of Amalfi. So
North Amalfi.
it was this lower, it was still south of Sunset, but on the left side of, or I guess the west side.
Okay.
So when you went to the end of the parcel, you couldn't see anything except just mountains
Greenery
and
and
greenery, and
mountains.
you had no idea where you were. You
Yeah,
could have
yeah.
been anywhere.
Never. It's,
You could have been in like Tuscany or
right.
And
People
I
say that when they don't know about
you've
this
never
part
seen
of the
it,
world.
yeah.
You see, like, this isn't LA. What is
Right.
it? Where am
Where
I?
am I?
Yeah.
And I said, I've got to live on the street.
So you fell in love.
Fell in
It was
love.
just like mind blowing. Fell in love.
Fell in love with the street, hired a realtor, and my husband and I were like, we only want to look on this street. And
So
we
you
looked
knew-
and looked and looked for a couple years. And then the story of like how we got the house is,
Yeah,
you know,
this was an older.
yes, it was an older Richard Landry house.
That's right.
It was 07? 08, 07.
Okay.
Still, the market was still pretty good. And there was a bidding war for the piece of land that was here.
Was it bidding war because I guess both the land and
market was high.
it was a Richard Landry and the market
Yeah,
was still
market
strong.
was high,
All
it was
those
strong.
elements, everyone wants. So here it is. You've been waiting,
Yep.
and now everyone wants it.
Yep.
So you guys went after it.
So we went after it, and then the price, it was Thanksgiving, and we were in Mexico.
oh, perfect.
Right.
You're in Mexico with no service, and there's the house
Yep.
you've been waiting for 3 years.
And we just the price got crazy, and we were like,
course it
no,
did.
you know what? No, we're out.
So
we fell out.
You eject.
We eject. We're like, that's just stupid. You know,
Got it.
it doesn't make financial sense.
It was a
So
bloodbath, and it was getting bid
Yep.
up, and you were like,
And
"This
it
is."
wasn't at the time. We were like, well, would we ever really get the money back? I mean, at the
Yeah.
time, it was a different world. And so we get over it. We move on. House sells. It's in escrow. Now it's Christmas.
Month
And
later.
we have a house in Cabo, so we were back in Mexico, and we get a call, and we're like, 400 just came back on the market. We're like, what do you mean? The owner
Fell out
has
of
another
escrow.
house in Shadow Heights. They're backward, like they can't afford to keep both. They need to sell the house. The other two people that were behind you are now in other deals.
Okay,
and
so
they're
you were-
happy with it. So
there was
we were
backup
third.
offers.
There was three or four
So
offers.
it falls out of escrow. The backup offers found another house or are
Yep.
interested in something else. And down the line,
Yep.
you're the next one up,
Yep.
and you're totally forgot about
So
it
we
at
end
this
up
point.
getting it for under what
So
they
you
were
got a
asking.
huge discount based on it
because
falling
they
out of
needed
escrow.
to do it by the end of the year, and we made the deal, and that was it. And then
Wow.
we rented it out, and we got bids to kind of do what we wanted to do to
Got it.
it.
So you didn't move in right away. You knew you were doing a project.
No.
You rented it out, tried to figure out
Yep.
what you wanted to do.
Yep.
So the plan was to remodel the Richard
right.
Landry house. Was it? It's not. It wasn't historic in any way, but
No,
it's
not at
Richard
all.
Landry,
No, it
so
was
there's always
not
that
historic.
pedigree.
And if you saw the lot, the way, probably because of add-ons, but the way the house was oriented compared to like how it should be with the views,
It wasn't maximizing
it just
the
didn't
topography
maximize
and the
it. And when we
views.
got the numbers, we decided, we were on a plane to Europe, and my husband walks over to me and goes, I think we should tear it down.
That happens so much. Unbelievable. It happened so much. It happened to us. We were going to remodel our 30 Spanish. Well, we remodeled it when we first moved in, but we were saving a second level of adding on for years later. So we started looking into that, and then it's like, get the bids, and the bids are almost as much as building, and then we found a brand new house 2 blocks away, and that's how we ended up on Forrester. Anyway, I can't tell you how many times clients have this conversation. Should I build? Should I buy? Should I remodel? They go into it thinking I'm going to remodel, and they realize it's probably more cost effective. It makes more sense to just build, create what you want, rather than trying to work with something like you said. It doesn't have the right vantage points, the right topography, and if you spend all that time and energy trying to fix it, and it's still not exactly what you want or where it should
You're
be.
going to end up moving.
Yeah. So, and this is also a very complex lot. It's not a perfect rectangle. It's
Right.
views. There's a lot of things with the light and the angles that you had to capture. So now you have a spectacular house. How would you define the style? Obviously, it's sort of architectural, but it's warm and sophisticated.
Well, thank you. But so there was a house that I really loved. It's a house that was designed for Dolores Del Rio
Okay.
in the Santa Monica Canyon, and it's deco. And I loved it. And I knew we could not build an Art Deco house because I'm not a big fan of people reproducing a style in today's world and trying to recreate it because you just can't
never
usually
get it
do it
right.
very well.
You can never get it
So we were going to build a modern house with an homage to deco. So you'll see tiny details. I mean, the
Yeah,
black and white.
for sure.
There's ziggurats. There's certain design elements.
And the facade from the street, you get those elements.
A bit, yeah.
It's subtle. It's not in your face.
Yes.
It's subtle. It's a very like a twist. I would say it's sort of a twist on it, and it's sort of a modern twist on it. But yet there's some timeless elements. That's how I perceive it.
Well, I think that's pretty accurate, and that's what we were trying to do, and so hopefully we achieved it. But so the style of the house is inspired by deco, but it's definitely a contemporary house.
Yeah.
I just wanted a house that felt warm and not like a white modern box.
Right. I mean,
'Cause
your
knew my
family,
kids
you're
would
living here.
Yes, my kids were going to grow up here. And, you know, it was me and a team of probably 12 between the developer and the contractor and the architect and my husband, modernist men. So it was a very interesting process to build this house.
And was Sasha very involved with the design, or does he leave it to you because that's your expertise, as we say, or was it a collaboration?
He was involved in for sure wanted to be involved in the architecture part of it.
Yeah.
And I kind of gave him certain rooms. He got
Man
the
cave?
master bedroom. He got his office. He got his garages, and I got the rest of it.
Well, that's nice of you, Alison.
Yes. That's why his office doesn't look so finished. But
Did he do the Lego room?
No, I did the Lego room.
Okay, that's my favorite
That was a
room.
result of my my youngest son starting to eat all the pieces in the other
Of
playroom,
course,
and
the
so
best.
we thought
my
we
kids
should
would go
move.
nuts in the Lego room. That place that rocks. Just when I hang out there. Got it. So the way I look at it, it's very hard to pull off a modern or architectural home and yet have it livable, warm, sophisticated. We see a lot of slick white boxes that are emotional and poignant with views and glass, but rarely do you capture what you have, which is it's still very warm, livable, and you can see that family lives here and it's functional, yet there's something about it that is edgy and avant-garde, and you nailed it. Now, would you say this defines your style? And from an outsider looking in, your style is very unique, and a lot of the things I'm saying, I would say if someone had asked me and didn't know you, what's your style? I'd say, well, that's really hard to define. She has a very modern sensibility, yet it seems very timeless and classic, yet there's always a little fun twist or edge or uniqueness to it. How would you sort of define your style, or is it that it's just not definable?
No, I think it's definable. I think it's an overused term in the design world, but people would say it's eclectic modern, streamlined modern, warm modern. I think that my job as a designer is to be an editor and a curator.
Sure.
So a client comes to me, and some of them come with nothing. They're building a brand new house. They have
And they have no
nothing.
idea.
They have no art. Some of them come with a lot. There's stuff they've traveled from, things that mean something to them. And my job is to kind of take their point of view and their things and what they're inspired by and pull out the really good ideas and kill all the bad ideas and bring together my vision and their vision.
So truly curating it.
And and at the end of the day, it shouldn't feel like I've put my stamp of design on a particular house. I don't believe in that
interesting.
as a designer.
So it's not about
think it's
you
easy
and
to
your
do.
stamp and your ego
No,
and your way.
it's
It's about
about
doing what's right
yes.
for the property, for the client.
I think that the bones of a house, if it's a ground up, it's a different thing because it's going to be somewhat contemporary for the most part. But if a client comes to you and they bought a house and it's like a 1929 Spanish
Right,
original
which I
or
love the
early
old houses.
20s, the bones of the house are going to dictate somewhat what you're going to do. Even if it's more modern, you're going to use some of those old inspiration images to mix what's current, what's modern, what they like,
Right.
and bring it all together. So my job really, I think of it as being an editor and a curator and helping that client come up with something that works for them and is livable. Because so many people design houses, particularly developers, where they design these white modern boxes and they
Concept house.
design a house for what they believe a wealthy person would like to live in.
Yeah.
And the truth is,
Now it's nuts. I mean, now it's, it's the spa, it's the wellness center, it's, the hot plunge, the cold plunge. I mean, it's unreal what we're seeing in the basements of these incredible houses with helicopter pads, even though there's no license to use helicopters in LA. There's some sensational conceptual properties, but also, like, as you're saying, not necessarily so practical. so functional. And, unless you just want a statement house that you don't really need to live in very well or very hard. I mean, I don't know if those houses make so much sense for most people.
Well, I think that
As cool as they are to walk through.
I was going to say, I think people buy them as showpieces.
Yeah.
And they understand that they're not going to use 30 or 40% of the house, and they're going to live in, most of us live in 4 or 5 rooms.
Right. They're probably not using 90% of those houses.
Right. And they may not even be there so often, but I have no problem with those houses. I've certainly worked on those houses, but I do think that, we live in a place where there's a lot of land. We don't live in Manhattan, and access, I mean, more is more in this town, right?
More is more. There you go. Put it on a shirt. More is more. Put it on a hat.
It's true. I mean, we take advantage of the fact that we have land and we have big rooms, and sometimes that works, and sometimes it's very, very vapid and empty feeling.
Yeah. Yeah. So do you like taking on old restoration projects when it's like, okay, this house, it's charming, it's gorgeous, but it needs everything, and you're starting over, but you got to stay within the confines of the house? Is that something you like doing? Is it more challenging to do that versus starting with, hey, we're just building a house on a blueprint and picking every finish and every?
Yeah, I would say that I like to break the rules a lot. So you are not going to hire me if you want to stay true to a true restoration. I'm not your person. You want to hire a historical.
I guess I didn't mean that.
And
you're not going to do a historical preservation. You're going to make it fun and interesting.
Right. We're going to take the elements that worked in its time and that are beautiful, and we're going to enhance those, and then we're going to kind of bring in everything that's maybe a little more edgy, fun, and contemporary.
Yeah, and you enjoy that type of project.
I think that that's a great project. I mean, the house is, I just finished working on one up in Bel Air Estates, and it's an old Tudor, but it felt dark, and it needed to come into today's world so that a young family,
this is on your Instagram. I just saw this yesterday. Yeah, it looks cool.
That house is going to sell probably to a young family.
Yeah.
Or teenager, a family with teenagers, and it just felt like something that someone in today's world wouldn't live in. Yeah. So how do you take an old Tudor and stay true to the architectural bones? Well, I mean, there's lots of tricks to the trade, and you learn them over time, but I think that that's what I enjoy that, because it's a bit of a challenge. Mm-hmm. A new house is lovely to work on, but you're right. I mean, it's a grid, and you can kind of do anything you want. You can move the walls, you can put in so they're more challenging when you have to work with what's already there. I like it. I mean, that's so. Very few things are new these days. I'd love to work on my hotel projects. I haven't done that, but
I was going to say, what kind have you done? Any commercial, office, hotel, retail?
I have, and most of those come from clients that have had us do residences and then have us come in and work on commercial. It's not really what I love, but I would love to do a hotel project or a small boutique.
That would be amazing having your design. It was kind
of what we did in Punta Mita, because a lot of those rooms were mirrors of each other, even if there was only 2, and then we did a set of 2 and a set of 2. But I would imagine that would be what it's like. So that's my last sort of. That's what
Alison
I really want to do.
Palevsky branded hotels coming soon.
I don't know if I want my name on there, but I want to be the designer.
Yes, there you go. We'll take the name off. Delete that. Omit that. So tell me about designers that you have been inspired by, or designers that whether it's past, whether it's people that are working contemporaries of you today. Are there designers, and it doesn't even have to be someone who's an interior designer, it could be an artist. What inspires you creatively? What people you look at and say, I love what they're doing, it's inspiring, it's influential to me?
Yeah. Andre Putnam, interior designer, amazing work. I'll always look at that work when I'm looking for inspirations. Contemporary artists, I'm a huge James Turrell fan. He works with light and space. He's probably my favorite all-time artist. I think he's inspiring because he makes you see something, or you think you're seeing, but it's not necessarily what you're seeing. You kind of have to step back from it. And for me, those kind of things are more inspiring than just looking at another interior designer's work. Of course, I respect them, and there's ones that I really love. I mean, I think that Kelly Wurtzler, when I was coming up, was pretty incredible influencer in terms of just she had a style and then she changed it and she got into the Memphis period. So I completely respect what she's done as an interior designer and just kind of breaking into the fashion world. I think she's a pretty great female role model in my industry. But I draw inspiration from images, but I draw inspiration a lot of times from the art side of things.
Yeah.
And
that makes sense.
What do I love about this? Like, what makes me, is this painting, is it about color? And do I take some of my design work from fashion? Yes.
So it all sort of bleeds and melds in and influences, and I would think so. I mean, I look at your home, you have so much beautiful art and collected, and everything's curated, the art, the furniture, the accessory, everything. And it all seems to meld together in what you do. And you do help clients with their art as well. Is that part of what you do when you're designing a house?
Yes. I think, well, this is blurred lines. I think we all kind of, designers, artists, I really have a lot of relationships with artists, and I really get them. I really enjoy understanding their process. Yeah. So as a result of that, I sometimes have a client who doesn't have an art collection and they have a lot of white walls and a lot of space to fill.
A lot of space and nothing on the walls.
And they know that I personally collect. I have relationships with artists.
You're going
I'm
to
involved.
Festivals.
I go to a lot of the art fairs. Yeah. I go because I'm sometimes looking for things, but I am not an art advisor and I'm not an art consultant by definition. I don't like the square edges that come with that.
Sure.
And it's not my background, but sure, do I help clients and suggest pieces and suggest take them on studio visits? Absolutely. I mean, I had a meeting this morning at 8 where it's all white walls, and the husband said to me, we need art. I'm like, okay, but it takes a minute. You don't go to the store and buy, an entire house worth of photography. I'm like, you got to have some art, you have to have some sculpture, you have to have some oils. It's a mix.
A diverse portfolio of a collection. You can't just,
Photoshop in all the art. But so yes, I definitely am involved in that, and I've been involved with helping to bring artists to certain. I helped the World Surf League bring in some artists for their first I guess it's surf contest.
How does that work? They had a beach competition and they wanted
Kelly Slater has the Wave up in Lemoore.
Yeah, the Wave pool. I'm trying to get invite Kelly. Please invite me. I'm waiting for the invitation. I don't know if I got my spam filter or what. Kelly, hit me up.
So they did their first competition in May, and we worked with them because they really did want to have music and art.
They wanted a whole lifestyle.
Yeah, we had 4 artists come in and do live artist installations. So we were hired by them to find the artists and then oversee them.
Like the whole marketing, branding, events.
Yes.
A lot of blurred lines there.
A lot of blurred lines.
So I'm thinking back to Kelly Wersler and talking about that. You have your own line.
I do. I have my own line of furniture, and it's something that I would like to eventually get more into again. But it's hard because you're kind of running they're two different businesses.
Okay.
When you're working with a client who it's so specific to the house and it's very site specific, and the furniture is pieces that we've developed along the way, and people can just buy. Which is great, but what I should do is have a person that comes in and just really runs that, because it's hard to run both.
They're trying to do both. And what sort of stuff is it couches? Is it tables?
It's everything. It's small tables. It's game tables.
This game table, which I love. Yeah. I need to get that.
Yeah, that's one of our popular sellers.
I bet. I definitely need it.
It's some lighting. But I'd like to go back into smalls, like accessories, because I think it's hard to ship furniture. It's very custom. It's very personal.
And is it mostly for clients that you're designing their homes, or is it other interior designers coming to you saying, hey, we'd like to use your stuff for our clients, or is it both?
It's a lot of individuals, but certainly we've had designers like pieces for projects they're doing and purchase from us. Yeah. But it's less focused on to the trade. It was more focused on someone just seeing it like an individual.
It's a word of mouth thing. Yes. So when you're designing a client's house, it's just if something fits you introduce them to
you mean
it?
the furniture? How would someone buy it?
And how you would incorporate your furniture versus other people's pieces, or it's just whatever is the best fit for that specific room or specific client.
Well, we still, even though we don't put it in our line, we design and make about 60% of the things. So the sofa we're sitting on was made for this space.
Got it.
We made these ottomans.
So you're creating stuff for clients, even if it's not your line. It's you who created it.
Yeah. We don't put it in our line then because sometimes the client will feel like, well, that table was made for me, and unless they're okay with it, they don't necessarily want to see it on everyone else's. Right? Yes.
They don't want a restoration hardware to vibe the table.
No, they don't want that. So, but we do. We make a majority just because scale and, if you buy it off the floor, the dimensions aren't always perfect, and we really try to get it right and make it custom for each client. So you're sitting on a particularly deep sofa because my husband wanted it
very comfortable,
very deep, but they're not all this dimension. And if we were making it for you and you wanted it for a specific living room, we would shorten it up. Yeah, and so scale is everything, and if it's not scaled right, you immediately feel it.
So I am someone who, like I said, loves design. I'm in real estate. It's a big part of my life. One of my favorite things to do, whether I'm in town or in another state, I love looking at hotels and hotel lobbies to see how it's designed, to see whether I like it or not. But there's always interesting cutting edge design happening. Do you have some hotels or hotel lobbies that you say, oh man, I just love it. I love this room. What if there's one or two, whether it's local, whether it's international, wherever? I'd love to know a couple rooms that you love. And it doesn't have to be a hotel. It could be a restaurant. It could be an office space, a room where you're like, wow, this speaks to this is really interesting. I really like to design.
I think that the Aman does a really good job at being site specific again.
Oh, yeah.
So they design for the site. So if you're at the Aman Giri or
it's in the hillside.
It's very site specific. And I think there's something to that. So some of the Amans, the Turks and Caicos ones, the one in Utah. I mean,
that one in Utah is just
it's
insane.
unbelievable.
I mean,
and it's so specific to the pool around the mountains.
It's like been carved into the landscape and the geography and topography.
Is that when the architecture is blended and melded into, they really become one. And I think that there's it's older now, but I think Jonathan Adler did it pretty well in Palm Springs with the Parker, where he kind of he took some of the stuff that was happening in the 70s stuff, the mid-century stuff, the rock and roll, and he blended it really well. And then, of course, I like all the old world stuff. So, the Polo Lounge, the Bel Air Hotel.
Favorites.
Are they're on my list. I frequent them like once or twice a week.
The Bel Air, I can't get enough of that. We went there after our wedding. That's where we spent the first couple nights being a married couple at the Bel Air. I just love it. It's changed. What do you think about the new design versus the old classic design?
Well, I think that I probably am partial to the old design because it was done by a bigger hotel group. But what I love in the Bel Air Hotel, the Norman Seifs, the photographs. I worked with Norman a little bit when I did a show for him at my concept store / gallery when we had it. He's a great guy. The story behind those is great. And I think that those make it. Because you're in there, you're hearing the piano, you're looking up at Tina Turner, you're looking up at like the Blues Brothers, and you're like, oh, okay, I know where I am. It gives you a sense of time.
That's true.
And I think that I think your environment influences your mood. So
I think photographs do that so much. They just bring you into a space and a time and capture it. And that, like, now that you've said that, and I think about that room, for sure,
and
that just grounds it. And it's like, okay, this is a historical spot.
Right. I know where I am. Right. And I think another one is the Polo Bar in New York.
Yes. Great spot.
You don't really realize it, but you're underground. There are no windows on that subterranean level.
True.
But the designer used mirrors, and the space is executed in a way that you never even notice it.
Yeah, you don't think you're not claustrophobic. Nope, you're like in this elegant.
And it's a throwback. Spot. It's elegant, but you're not afraid to sit down.
Yeah.
I think that is an art. Like, if you can actually make someone feel comfortable and not afraid to, like, should I not put my drink here? Should I?
It can't be too precious. It's got to be.
That. Yes.
Yeah, it's got to be livable and functional and all that sort of stuff for sure. Well, that's a really good point. So let's turn to a little more personal stuff. you're a mother, you're married, you have a business, you got a big life. Balance you mentioned earlier. I don't know. I don't really believe in balance. I believe in the concept, and then we're all trying to balance and recalibrate. But when you got a big career and you got a family, there's no such really thing as balance. You just do the best you can and try to keep yourself from wiping out on the wave and just keep riding it. So how do you do it? You do have a very big life and business and family, and what is there certain parameters you put on your work life, or is there time constraints?
I think you said exactly what I would say, which is I don't think that balance exists for any of us that are
really
doing multiple
and really putting it down. It's hard to.
As a mother, as a woman,
as a mother in general, is there any balance for any mom that's involved with their children? I mean, that alone.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's different for women, and I'm not slighting the father's role because my husband is really involved, but I do think that the kids and their schedule and the life falls on the mother. So, growing up, I come from the generation of you can do everything. We were encouraged by a group of women who had fought for their rights and wanted us to go out there and have everything. So they said, you can be president, you can be married, you can have it all. And I don't think that's true.
And you're the children now, and Jessica and our generation are the children of those mothers.
That's right.
You can have it all and do it all. You can have it all. For better or worse, you can.
You can. I don't think you can.
Can't.
I really don't think that you can. So this is what I think. I think you can try.
Yeah.
You can try. But it fluctuates. It's like a roller coaster. So there are moments, I work in a business where it's project by project, and sometimes there are more lulls. We never are not working, but sometimes there's 4 projects going into like production, and there's this one, and you're all over it.
It's code red, and you can't, you have no time for anything.
Right. So, and those moments, I rely on my husband, I rely on my family members or my caretakers to kind of pick up the slack. And in the other moments when there's 2 weeks off and all my clients aren't bothering me, I'm present and I'm really engaged. I definitely believe in the quality versus quantity, because I have to, and otherwise I would just feel too guilty. But I am there in the morning. I'm there in the evening. They're in school most of the day.
Right.
I'm there every 4 or 5 nights a week, mostly during the weeknights. I come home, and then if I have a dinner, I go back out at 8:30. But part of my business is being out and going to gallery openings and seeing people. And if you don't show up, you're not on their lists anymore.
Yes.
So balance for me fluctuates, but I don't know if I really believe that you can have it all. I think something kind of suffers at all points in all moments.
I totally agree with that. That's how I see it. I think it shifts and it moves, and it's never a perfect balance. It's always an imperfect balance, and you're trying to right the ship. And I can't speak as to a mother and what that is like. And I just know how incredibly challenging it is for Jessica and 3 kids, and she doesn't have a career. And I just can't imagine with the career and juggling it all. But I think that's well said. Do you have any sort of routine in the morning where you're like, hey, I'm up early before the kids, I'm going to meditate, I'm going to work out? Do you have any sort of routine that gets you going and gets you fired up and ready for your day?
I sleep very little during the week. I
don't sleep. That's how I do it. That's the key to balance. Don't sleep. You want balance? Stop sleeping. That's right, right?
A little bit. Maybe not before having kids, but I'm a night person, not a morning person.
You're a night owl.
So
you like to stay up.
I never, even if I'm home, I very rarely could go to bed before 12 or 12:30.
That's
and
late
I'm
with
up
kids.
At like 6:30.
Yeah.
And I accept that that's just the way it is. And then usually one of the weekend mornings I'll sleep in.
Got it. That's catch up time.
That's my catch up time. That's the time that I'm like, I like to sleep. I won't lie. I just miss it.
You are a sleeper. So
I'm a sleeper.
So sleeping 6 hours a night is not your ideal optimal.
I'm highly functioning. Like I have a lot of energy, and I can pretty much I travel a lot, and I travel for work a lot, and I'll get on the 5 a.m. plane. I'll be there by 8. I work all day. At this point in my life, I still have high energy.
Yeah.
And I just feel like I'll sleep when I'm dead. I'm good with that. I accept it. And
you'd rather accomplish more than a day than get an extra hour of sleep.
Morning, I'm up with my 2 sons. They go to school at different times, so I get them off to
Them
school,
ready.
and then I go to my office or whatever I'm doing. Yeah. And I don't know, my morning mindset is, I guess, like mind leads, body follows. Like you make your mind, if your mind tells you you're going to do it, your body will most of the time follow it.
But you're not doing any sort of
Exercise?
Meditation. I'm thinking,
I
no
don't
mind.
meditate.
No.
I can't. I mean,
Can't
I've
sit
tried
still.
so
Too
many
much energy. Well,
times.
everyone's different.
I do Pilates. That's the closest I come to yoga.
I was going to
or,
say, is there
I
exercise
run.
or routine?
The running is my release, my
That's super
cathartic.
meditative. I mean, it's the endorphins, and you're clearing your head, and you're outside or wherever you are.
And
so
then
you are running and Pilates.
I like non-team sports. I'm a skier. I'm a runner.
You are a skier. I know that. I've seen the picture. A good skier.
I've been skiing
There's
since
been
I was
unreal
4.
powder. And
the powder's really good. Best season ever.
Yeah, and I think in Mammoth we're skiing till June. They said, but I don't know about that. I don't know if I buy it.
I'll be there in June
in a bathing suit and cutoffs.
Right.
I don't know that I want to be there. So that's interesting. So you do work out, but you don't have a mindset.
Like 4 or 5 times a week, but I'm not.
Yeah.
I don't have a job where it's 9 to 5. Every single day is different. I had a meeting at 8:00 this morning because that's the only time.
Clients can need you any time of day, 24/7.
So there's no real routine, and I hate routine.
Yeah.
I fight against monotony with like a great force. So
this works for you.
I am so happy to have a project end and to start a new one. This totally works for me. I don't know that I couldn't not work or not have. I would always do something. Well,
it is stimulating to always have a new client or new project. I get it. I'm constantly doing new deals, new types of deals, investment deals, family deals, and it is new and interesting. It's not the same thing, billing, doing whatever it is. So that I do get it. So do you have times where you unplug and you say, okay, this is my time, Alison time, or family time? It's not working. And what does that look like? Is that your Pilates time? Is it, hey, let's go away with the family somewhere? Or is it?
Yeah, I mean, I think after the nights when I don't go out and I put my kids to bed, I'm fortunate enough to have a gym in my basement. So I'll go downstairs and I'll do Pilates or I'll run that's my disconnect as far as like exercise routine goes. But I would say weekends. I don't really work on the weekends unless I absolutely have to.
Got it.
I don't work on the weekends.
So that's
I'm with my
time.
kids. I'm with my family. And yeah, I absolutely love to travel. I want to know what's around every corner. I'll chase it. Bet.
And are you finding products or inspirations in different places?
That's I couldn't live without that.
That's something I always wonder. Like, what is a place recently, or it doesn't have to be recently, a place where you found something that you used in one of your houses, or you're inspired by? Or is that constantly happening?
I would say I leave LA every 3 weeks. I'm never here for longer than 3 weeks. Yeah. Don't like to be here for longer than 3 weeks, even if it's 2 days in Palm Springs. Just don't like it here.
I get it.
Gotta get out of here. So I was in Mexico City last week for the Zonamaco Fair. Incredible. I have a lot of friends that live in Mexico City, and so I get the Roots tour. So to the local markets,
tour, the
and
good stuff,
the art stuff, I found these incredible hand painted tequila cups and trays, and I will bring that stuff back.
I mean, clients must love that because it's really one of a kind and so unique and interesting, and
absolutely, and you find inspiration. Like, how do they do it? What do I see here? So
are there cities, or it doesn't have to be a city, village, city, any areas that you go to where you feel like, this is my spot for inspiration, for finding stuff? Are there Mexico City or other cities? Is it Paris? Is it a small village somewhere?
It's all of it.
All of it.
So
you can find it anywhere, everywhere if you're looking or know where to look.
It's not like you're going to go to Paris. I mean, you can go to galleries in Paris and you can go stay in an old hotel or go to somebody's house and find true inspiration. I love the old architecture,
the old European architecture.
But I think that, again, London, Paris, Mexico City, Berlin, big cities I love. I love the urban part of it. I go back to them. But the truth is, I will try not to go back to them so often because I like to go to new places.
Discovery.
Yeah, my husband gets so angry because he's like, just because we've been there once doesn't mean we can't go back. But I don't love to keep going back. I want to go find
fresh, new experience.
I want to go discover something. So it's all over.
Totally get it. And that must complement you finding new and interesting things if you're always out there searching and looking.
Yeah. I mean, I think we all, that's like my serotonin spikes. I get a great satisfaction wow, look, I discovered this restaurant or look at this and
that's a very specific type of personality where you're chasing sort of the edge. You're chasing the new. You're chasing. Sure. I mean, I think that's an authentic tastemaker. You're really looking You're
I
looking
don't
for
like
something.
contentment.
Yeah.
What's that quote?
I don't like contentment.
Show me a
You're not happy with being happy. If I'm happy, I need to change
it's not
something
about
up.
being happy. Contentment is different.
Okay.
But I think it was Edison, right? It's show me a thoroughly satisfied man and I'll show you a failure.
There you go.
I don't.
I subscribe to that for sure.
I think it's stagnation that's my problem.
Yeah.
It's I don't want to just be safe. It's boring to me.
You want to grow,
anything.
Evolve, push constantly.
Yeah, I want to
live
know
life.
what's around the next corner.
Yeah.
And maybe we don't
love
all
it.
do, but I do.
Yeah, you have a real passion for life. That's wonderful.
I do.
So you have a tough business. It's hard to build a business and service business and design. I always like to ask people, what advice would you give if there was an up and coming designer trying to do what you're doing? Is there any words of wisdom or advice of how what they should be doing, what they should be focused on, or anything of that nature that you would think about for someone that's coming up in the ranks now?
I mean, the business has changed since you and I probably began in different businesses.
The world has changed.
It's different. The social media world, the way that you can come onto the scene with social media is really different now, because if you post a lot of great pictures, they might not be images of your own work, but you're showing that you have great taste. So that's different. But as far as doing what I do and tailoring your services to a higher end clientele, I would say go work for someone you admire, and maybe not in the same style that you like.
Got it.
And stay there for a few years. Make your mistakes on their dime, because you're going to make them.
Yeah.
And have somebody else pay for them, because you're going to mess up. You're going to misscale the bed. You're not going to think about if it's going to fit in the door frame.
Sure.
There's things you can't know.
So don't try to do it
on
your own, and don't try to be an expert when you're not.
Immediately, unless you're prepared to kind of eat it, because you're going to eat it a lot in the first couple of years. And then, get yourself a few clients, and don't be afraid to take the risk. Go out there and do it on your own. But
awesome. Yeah.
I think that in the beginning
Is school important?
Yes, you have to learn how to draw.
Okay,
and
so you do have some
scale.
nuts and bolts skill sets, and that's just a given.
You can't. I guess you could hire a draftsperson,
Yeah,
but if you can't
to
draw, I don't draw anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, I might hand it off to someone in my office and say, "I want you to do this," and sketch it with, but I don't have time to draw. Somebody else draws for me.
Yeah.
But you have to learn how to draw, or you can't understand what size sofa or where your feet should go or what seat height. When it's correct, you don't think about it. When it's wrong, you're like, what happened here? You feel it immediately.
And it's a big mistake.
It's
an expensive
we
mistake.
all know.
And it's,
Yeah. So I would say that's probably, and then of course the social media aspect of it. But I would say you have to go and do the grunt work for a couple of years.
Like anything.
Or you can just put
Learn your
photos on
trade.
Instagram and be an influencer and project the image, but you're not necessarily really doing it then.
Yeah, I don't subscribe to the fake it till you make it. I think it collapses, and I think the Instagram, social media, Facebook generation, it encourages that. And I think
a chance.
It gets you in the door quicker, and you could front like we were joking, you're a life coach and you're 21, or I'm a designer and I'm 21, I haven't done anything. But the reality is it's not authentic. You're not truly an expert. You're not adding value, and you're going to be it's going to be vetted, and you're going to fall on your ass
eventually.
A lot.
I mean, I think that's true. I think that comparatively in the past, it's been Shelter magazines, the Architectural Digest, the Elle Decor, and when you really made it, it was you were published in one of those.
Yeah.
And today, that's still pretty big deal, but you can do that with social media in a different way. Whereas, the magazine was your big break.
Got it. That's a huge push and a huge marketing, and a huge branding. And you've been published. I've seen stuff of yours.
I was published in Architectural Digest when I was 27. Whoa. And what it did is it did not. I'd got no clients from it, but I was on the map. So I could get myself in the door for a job that was really great.
Credibility at the time,
yes,
and I guess that's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Well, parting words, anything else you want to include or say? I mean, we can dive deep into so many other topics.
No.
I love chatting with you, and I love being at your home.
Thank you for having me.
So much to say, but is there anything else you feel like we should cover? Anything you want to say about the world of design or the real estate world in general?
No, I would just say I think the point that keeps coming back to me through our conversation is just this world of blurred lines. So I would say that the real estate blends into the design, And that blends into, being able to kind of like reinvent yourself. And I
Sure.
love what I do. I love my design work, but I think we all at this point will have one or two careers, and I may take my design career and reinvent myself
Sure.
into some other
Good point.
part of it. And I think that for the up and coming generation, like reinvent yourself, not 30 times, but don't be afraid to take the risk. And
It's okay to change and evolve.
Or
and,
take when I say reinvent, I think take what you love from what you're currently doing and
Be passionate about it, be authentic
or start
about
something
it, learn your trade.
simultaneously
Yeah.
that you love, that's a branching off point, or give back in some way to the younger generation, or change something that you don't like
Yeah.
about what's happening in your industry. But that's about it.
Totally agreed. Well, you are an incredibly impressive woman. I love
Thank
hanging
you.
out. We could talk
I've
for
been
hours.
honest, yes.
Hopefully we'll all grab dinner soon.
Absolutely.
And we'll see each other soon. And I'll be in the Lego room going crazy.
I'll see you
building,
downstairs when I come home
building
from work in a few
spaceships.
hours.
That'll be me building spaceships.
I want to see your creation.
The Star Wars spaceship. But thank you so much. It was awesome.
Thank you for having me. It's been great.
Yeah. You know what? Yeah. Listen.
Hey, thanks for tuning in, guys. We appreciate it. I want to really thank Alison Palevsky for a wonderful interview and letting us hang out at her incredible house. So thank you, Alison. You can always find Alison at on Instagram at Palevsky_co and at Palevsky.co. She's an incredible, incredible designer and tastemaker, and can't wait to see what she does next. And guys, please, you can find me at Danny Brown LA on Instagram. Please follow, subscribe, and write a review. That would really help us on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, and you can also watch full-length video of the podcast on YouTube, The Deal with Danny Brown. But thanks again. It really, really means a lot to us for you to follow and write a review, and look forward to seeing you soon. We have Terry Heller coming up, talking about NWA and Jerry Heller. We have James Ferrier, the Pittsburgh Steelers, coming up. We have Brian Burkett, the avocado farmer, Joey Miller, the man behind the platform in Palisades Village, and others, many other cool guests. So thanks for tuning in, and I'll talk to you guys soon.
Watch me, I'm gonna be the best.